in harmony with great vigor. May our study be illuminating. May we not cherish ill feeling towards each other. Oh, peace, peace, peace.
I'm singing a devotional song, Praise the Name of God Incarnate, Ramakrishna, who is embodiment of Rama and Krishna. Whoever came to you, you fulfill their wishes. You are the giver of salvation. Your name takes us across the Bhavasagar, the ocean of life. We bow down to your feet a million times. Jai Rama Krishna Bhagavan, Jai Jai Rama Krishna Bhagavan, Jai Rama Krishna Bhagavan. Rama tum hi ho, Krishna tum hi ho, Rama tum hi ho, Krishna tum hi ho, Manav Rupi Vishnu tum hi ho, Jai ho Karuna Nidhan, Rama Krishna Bhagavan, Jai Jai Rama Krishna Bhagavan. द्वार तुम्हारे जो आया, जो उसने पाया, द्वार तुम्हारे जो आया, जो उसने पाया, कल्पतरु भगवान, जय जय राम कृष्ण भगवान, जय जय राम कृष्ण भगवान। प्रभु जी तुम दाता सबके, संकट में त्राता सबके, प्रभु जी तुम दाता सबके, संकट में त्राता सबके, सबका करो कल्याण, राम कृष्ण भगवान, जय जय राम कृष्ण भगवान। नाम तुम्हारा जो गाए, भवसागर वो तर जाए, नाम तुम्हारा जो गाए, भवसागर वो तर जाए, चरणों में लाख प्रणाम, जय जय राम कृष्ण भगवान, जय जय राम कृष्ण भगवान। राम तुम ही हो, कृष्ण तुम ही हो, मानव रूपी विष्णु तुम ही हो, जय हो करुणा निधान, जय जय राम कृष्ण भगवान, जय जय राम कृष्ण भगवान, जय जय राम कृष्ण भगवान।
I'm reading from from the book Talks with Swami Vivekananda. This incident is in the Belur Math while under construction, year 1898. Disciple: Pray Swamiji, if the one Brahman is the only reality, why then exists all this differentiation in the world? Swamiji: Are you not considering this question from the point of view of phenomenal existence? Looking from the phenomenal side of existence, one can, through reasoning and discrimination, gradually arrive at the very root of unity. But if you were firmly established in that unity, how from that standpoint, tell me, could you see this differentiation? Disciple: True, if I had existed in the unity, how should I be able to raise this question of why? As I put this question, it is already taken for granted that I do so by seeing this diversity. Swamiji: Very well. To inquire about the root of oneness through the diversity of phenomenal existence is named by the Shastras as Vyatireki, reasoning, or the process of arguing by the indirect method. That is, first taking for granted something that is non-existent or unreal as existing or real, and then showing through the course of reasoning that that is not a substance existing or real. You are talking of the process of arriving at the truth through assuming that which is not true as true, are you not? Disciple: To my mind, the state of the existing or the seen seems to be self-evident and hence true, and that which is opposite to it seems, on the other hand, to be unreal. Swamiji: But the Vedas say one only without a second. And if in reality there is the one only that exists, the Brahman, then your differentiation is false. You believe in the Vedas, I suppose? Disciple: Oh yes. For myself, I hold the Vedas as the highest authority. But if, in argument, one does not accept them to be so, one must, in that case, have to be refuted by other means. Swamiji: That also can be done. Look here, a time comes when what you call differentiation vanishes, and we cannot perceive it at all. I have experienced that state in my own life. Disciple: When have you done so? Swamiji: One day in the temple garden at Dakshineshwar, Sri Ramakrishna touched me over the heart, and first of all I began to see that the houses, rooms, doors, windows, verandas, the trees, sun and the moon, all were flying off, shattering to pieces as it were, reduced to atoms and molecules, and ultimately became merged in the Akasha. Gradually again, the Akasha also vanished, and after that, my consciousness of the ego with it. What happened next, I do not recollect. I was at first frightened. Coming back from that state, again I began to see the houses, doors, windows, verandas, and other things. Also on another occasion, I had exactly the same realization by the side of a lake in America. Yes, sir.
Now a period of meditation. special Sunday service, and first day after the summer vacation we are meeting again, and it's very special because of the presence of well-known speaker of our order, Swami Sarvapriyananda ji. He came a few days ago to Toronto. Before that, he had been giving talks and conducting retreats. In Vancouver, it was a 4-day retreat. Then he flew to London, Ontario, and there were talks on 3 days. And after that, he came here, and also we have been keeping him busy. Friday evening, he had an informal satsang, and yesterday whole day he had annual seminar, and it was a very excellent seminar. And he was one of the speakers with other 3 professors. And today is his Sunday talk. Swamiji is very well known. Many of us who have not seen him earlier have already acquainted him through YouTube talks. His YouTube speeches have been hit 1 million times and more. So he's so popular. And he gives phenomenal and makes very abstruse subject of Vedanta so clear with his own understanding, and the way he expresses is very unique way he is spreading the message of Vedanta. So he was popular when in India itself. He used to give talks in IIT, then his state talk and all that. So when Vedurmat found him fit to preach Vedanta in the West and sent him, many were unhappy in India. He said, you get him, but we lose. He was motivating the youth and preaching Vedanta in the universities and IIT and educational institute, and all were being gathered around, and you took him away to the West, and we lose a wonderful speaker like Swami Sarvapriyananda. So I know him from when he was Brahmachari. He joined the order in 1994. I was in Asansol and he joined in Deoghar. We were very close centers. And we used to talk. He was just joined the Brahmachari, and he was assigned to work in the school there. We have a very famous school, residential school. And when there was a teacher's seminar, and he allotted teachers very small time, like 4 minutes to give a talk, and all teachers were saying, what will I speak in 4 minutes? And that time he said, 4 minutes is a big time. And he gave the example of Lincoln's Gettysburg speech. I had not heard that time. I was a monk, old, but he would just join Brahmachari. That time itself I knew that he is great. But I don't know he's going to preach Vedanta in that way. But that time he gave the example of Gettysburg speech and said in that few minutes of time, Lincoln made an impact throughout the ages. And you have got 4 minutes time to put your thoughts in that. It's enough time, he said that. So he had vast knowledge since long ago. To introduce him formally, Swami Sarvapriyananda ji is presently the minister and spiritual leader of the Vedanta Society of New York. Prior to taking this assignment, he served as an assistant minister of the Vedanta Society of Southern California, Hollywood, for 13 months. The Swami joined the Ramakrishna order in 1994 and received sannyasa in 2004. Before being posted to Vedanta Society of Southern California's Hollywood temple, Swami served as an acharya, or teacher, of the Monastic Probationers Training Center at the headquarters of the order. He has served the Ramakrishna Math and the Ramakrishna Mission in various capacities, including being the vice principal of the Deoghar Vidyapit Higher Secondary School, principal of the Shikshana Mandira, Teachers Education College at Belur Math, and the first registrar of the Vivekananda University in Belur Math, India. So I now invite Swami Sarvapriyananda ji to present his talk. Swami Sarvapriyananda ji Maharaj.
Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. A very good morning to all of you, and I cannot express how much of a pleasure and a privilege it is for me to be here with you in Toronto, in the Vedanta Society of Toronto, this beautiful Sunday morning. Vedanta is Upanishads. I remember when we started learning Vedanta, the primer, the first text which introduces us to Vedanta as brahmacharis in the training center in our monastery in Belur Math, Vedanta Sara, that text, it defines Vedanta as Vedanta Nama Upanishad Pramana. What is Vedanta? Vedanta is the Pramana of the Upanishad, the source of spiritual knowledge called the Upanishads. That is Vedanta. Swami Vivekananda said that Vedas, by that he meant specifically the Upanishads, are the central texts of Hinduism. In one of the lectures which you find in the lectures from Colombo to Almora, Swami Vivekananda says, just as the Bible is the central text for the Christians and the Quran for the Muslims and the Zen Avesta for the Zoroastrians and so on, in the same way, the Vedas, specifically the Upanishads, are the central text for the Hindus. And then, this is something that we often read or it's quoted, but then the next paragraph is interesting. He says, but like the Upanishads, there are no texts. He says there are central texts, like the Gita, and, like the Quran and the Bible and Zen Avesta. Then he goes on to say, but like the Upanishads, there are no texts in the world. The Quran and the Bible and the Zen Avesta and all the other texts he mentioned, the central texts of other religions, are like our Puranas, the Smriti Shastras, a secondary text. Literally, if you actually go to these Upanishads and see the kind of questions that are raised and the answers that are given, unique in the entire history of literature, religious or otherwise, you do not find such remarkable wisdom. In India, in our traditions, all the other Shastras are called Smritis. The Vedas are called Shruti, specifically the Upanishads. And all the other Shastras, the Puranas, the Itihasas like Mahabharata or Ramayana, the Bhagavata, and all many other Shastras, they are all like explaining in detail, giving voice to, dressing up the Upanishadic ideas in stories and mythology. So they are all built around the Upanishads. And they specifically acknowledge that the Shrutis are primary, we, the Smritis, are secondary. Vivekananda held the Upanishads in the highest regard. He mentions that Sri Ramakrishna is the embodiment of the Vedas. He clearly mentions that the avatars like Krishna is not the authority. The authority of Krishna is the Upanishads. That Krishna preaches the Vedas, the Upanishads, that's his authority. Similarly, all the other the avatars of the texts, they derive their authority from the Upanishads. And their message is the message of the Upanishads. It's an eternal message. The great German philosopher, Schopenhauer, he read one of the first translations of the Upanishads. The Upanishads have been translated by this French scholar, young French scholar, Anquetil de Perron, who got it from India, this text. And the text he got was a Persian translation of the Sanskrit original. And the Persian translation had been done by none other than Dara Shikoh. They are Mughal prince. So, from a Persian translation of the Sanskrit original, Anquetil de Perron makes a Latin translation. And that is the one which Schopenhauer read. And after reading that, he says, I consider the study of this, that no study in the world is as beneficial as the study of these Upanishads, except perhaps the original, he says. These Upanishads have been the solace of my life, and they will be the solace of my death. Schopenhauer says. His masterwork, the world as will and idea, Schopenhauer's masterwork. It's a difficult text. He's a wonderful writer, but his essays are worth reading. But this other book, The World as Will and Idea, is a very difficult text. It's in 4 books and translated into 2 volumes. So just to take a look, I have not read the whole book, just browse through it. I got an English translation and I browsed through it, and I found in the first chapter itself, he clearly says, what I am going to say in these 4 books was most clearly known to the ancient Indians. They called it Maya. So the influence of the Upanishads on Schopenhauer is undoubted. The influence of the Upanishads on Emerson, Upanishads and Gita. One of Emerson's biographers writes that Emerson was the mind, can be considered the mind of America. And in a recent book, Phil Goldberg, American Veda, Phil Goldberg writes, if Emerson is the mind of America, then many people do not know how much of that mind was influenced by the mind of India, through the Upanishads and the Gita. At that time, long before internet and easy access to all of this, Emerson had one of the finest collections of Upanishads and Gita and different Hindu Shastras in America. And he lent some of those books to one of his favorite disciples, if one may use the word, Thoreau. And yesterday I think Professor Ramamurthy was quoting from Thoreau that in Walden, he says, in the early morning, at Walden, in the early morning I bathe in the waters of the Upanishads, or the Gita. Gita is nothing but the essence of the Upanishads. Influence on Walt Whitman, very strong influence. Even down to our age, T.S. Eliot, who might be considered the most, maybe the central figure in modern English literature. T.S. Eliot. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, you come across the story that the demons and the human beings and the devatas, they went to the Father, Creator, Brahma, and asked him for advice, life advice. And Brahma said, we know the story, it's a famous story. Da, 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 in the voice of thunder. Da, da, da. Dakaratraya, we call it in Vedanta. 3 things he said. What does it mean? The 3 das. Datta, Dayadvam, Damyata. Means give, be generous and give. And the next one, be kind, be compassionate, and be self-controlled, disciplined, self-controlled. Because the demons are supposed to be cruel. So for them the advice was, have daya, compassion. That will make your life complete. The human beings are supposed to be greedy. I know, I stay near Wall Street. So for them the advice was, again da, meaning datta, to give. And the gods are supposed to be, given to enjoyment. Life is one long party. And again I know, because before living near Wall Street I was living in Hollywood. So for them the advice was, damyata, be self-controlled. For human beings, generosity, to give. For the demons, to be kind and compassionate. And for the gods, to have restraint and self-control. Why am I saying this? When you open maybe Eliot's most famous work, The Wasteland, and that's part of the whole work is called What the Thunder Said. See? The voice of thunder. And if you open The Wasteland, what do you find? Straight away, direct, Sanskrit. Datta, Dayadvam, Damyata, the direct quotation. In fact, one professor of literature from Columbia University, he has researched the influence of Eastern philosophy on Eliot. And remarkable thing he has discovered, that Eliot himself writes, and it's available in printed sources, Eliot himself writes that these ancient Indian philosophers make the greatest of European philosophers look like mere schoolboys. And he ought to know, Eliot himself studied under Bertrand Russell, he studied under Bergson, he studied under Josiah Royce here in America. And he says, all of them, they look like schoolboys compared to these ancient Indian philosophers of the Upanishads. A very interesting book which I was reading is Waking, Dreaming, Being by Evan Thompson. And there he talks about the Upanishads, he talks about Buddhism and the findings of modern neuroscience and the correlations. Very, very interesting book, correlations between those three. In the beginning of that book, he gives a quotation from another philosopher. He says that these Upanishads are so important to us. We do not know how important these Upanishads are to us. They are so important that history, instead of dating history as BC and CE or AD, BC and AD or CE, whichever we use, history should be dated as before Upanishad and after Upanishads. Evan Thompson, he is a professor of the University of British Columbia. And I was in Vancouver, I thought, why not try to meet him? And I just dashed off an email. I had no hope that I would get a response. But he immediately responded. And he said, I would be delighted to meet you, but I'm out of town now. But next time we'll meet. So this is the importance of the Upanishads. Starting from Vivekananda, or even before that, if you see Schopenhauer, all through the ages, down to our modern time, the most sensitive, most learned of souls have recognized the importance of the Upanishads. The word Upanishad, what does it mean? It is sometimes interpreted as Rahasya Vidya, the secret doctrine. But Shankaracharya gives a very specific meaning in his commentary on the Kathopanishad. He writes, Upanishad, you split it up into Upa, Ni and Sat. What does it mean? Upa means to be close, to approach. Approach the teacher or the text. Be close to the text, approach this knowledge. And Ni means Nishchayena, that means with clarity, with conviction. When you get clarity and conviction upon this, what happens? Sad. Sadev Dhatur. He says Sadev Dhatur, Visharana, Avagati, Avasadhana. Three meanings. The Sad part of it, Upa, Ni, Sad. The Sad has three meanings. He split it up into three meanings. What are the three meanings? One is Avasadhana. It loosens the bonds of samsara. The suffering that we have in samsara. The moment you enter into Upanishads, the moment you begin to get clarity about what the Upanishads are saying, the bonds of samsara start loosening. The suffering is reduced. I remember many years ago standing in front of Belur Math, a young monk and another young monk and I were there we were talking late in the night, we were just walking in front of Belur Math, and he suddenly turned to me and he said, if somebody reads and understands the first sentence of the Brahma Sutra Bhashya of Shankaracharya. The Brahma Sutras are a text based on the Upanishads. So the introductory commentary of Shankaracharya on the Brahma Sutras, if somebody learns, they understands the first sentence, that itself, once you get what Shankaracharya is trying to say there, after that you should have no problems in life, no complaints in life. So profound is the knowledge that the Upanishad gives. Even before realization, even before enlightenment, even before Brahma Jnana, the problems of the world seem to drop away. Avasadhana loosens the bonds of the world. The second meaning of the Sad in the Upanishad is Visharad, it destroys. What does it destroy? It destroys avidya, ignorance. That which hides our real nature from us, that's destroyed by Upanishad. And the third meaning of Sat is Gati. It takes you to Brahman, to your real nature. Takes you means not physically, it makes you realize that you are Brahman. So this is the meaning of Upanishads. To put it in brief, Brahma Jnana, the enlightenment or realization, the knowledge about Brahman, that is Upanishad. Upanishad is not just a book. If you go to somebody's house, it says John Smith on the nameplate outside. Now the house is not John Smith. John Smith is the person who lives in that house, who dwells in that house. So Upanishad directly refers not to the book itself, to the knowledge that dwells in that book, that you get from that text. Secondarily, it refers to a text. When you say, I am studying the Katha Upanishad, so you're talking about the text, but basically it means Brahma Jnana. These Upanishads are many in number. There's a list of 108 Upanishads. In one of the Upanishads themselves, in the Muktika Upanishad, there's a story that Hanuman goes to Rama. Yes, even Hanuman and Rama are there in the Upanishads. Muktika Upanishad, Hanuman goes to Rama and asks, how can I get moksha, liberation? And Rama replies that Mandukya Mekamevalam Mumukshunam Vimuktaye. The Mandukya Upanishads, the smallest of the Upanishads. 12 mantras only. The Mandukya Upanishad, the smallest of the Upanishads, that by itself is enough to give liberation to those who desire liberation, moksha to those who desire moksha. But if you cannot get moksha by studying and absorbing the knowledge of the Mandukya Upanishad, then there are these 24 Upanishads, and then if you cannot do that, then there are I think 32, something like that. He goes on, total 108 Upanishads are there. You can study these. So he gives a list of 108 Upanishads in the Muktika Upanishad itself. But of all these Upanishads, 10 Upanishads are taken as major Upanishads today because Shankaracharya 1400 years ago selected these 10 Upanishads to write his commentaries upon. And those 10 Upanishads are the Isha Upanishad, the Kena Upanishad, the Katha Upanishad, the Mundaka Upanishad, the Mandukya Upanishad, Aitiriya Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, Prashna Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So these are the 10, what we call the 10 major Upanishads. There is another one, the 11th one, the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Whether Shankaracharya himself wrote that commentary or not, it's a little open to scholarly debate. I remember when we were studying the commentary on the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, our teacher, who at that time was 101 years old, and he's still living. He is 104, and he's not worried about death because he said, my father lived to 108 and my mother to 110, so I'm young yet. So he was teaching us the Shvetashvatara Upanishad commentary of Shankaracharya, and while teaching, he's this old monk, he is himself enjoying it while teaching. He is shaking his head and saying in Bengali, yes, this is not originally Shankaracharya's word. So there is a doubt among scholars. It may be written, it's a wonderful commentary, but may be written by a later Shankaracharya, but that aside. So here are the Upanishads. And these Upanishads are the foundation of Hinduism. You may not think so. You do not directly see the influence of Upanishads. If you go to a temple, you see the different images and worship and rituals going on. If you read scriptures, it may be Ramayana or Mahabharata or Bhagavatam or at the most Gita. But these Upanishads actually form the foundation of Hinduism today. How? These Upanishads, there is a text called Brahma Sutras, which is based on the Upanishads. It takes the philosophical questions that arise when you read the Upanishads and answers those questions. Now these Brahma Sutras are in the form of sutras, aphorisms. And these aphorisms have to be explained. So great commentators like Shankaracharya and Ramanujacharya have written Sanskrit commentaries on these aphorisms. And these commentaries form the philosophical basis of the great schools of Hinduism. For example, Shankaracharya's commentary on the Brahma Sutras, which you remember are based on the Upanishads. Shankaracharya's commentary on the Brahma Sutras, the Brahma Sutra Bhashya, is the philosophical foundation of Advaita Vedanta, which is the central philosophy of our order. We are here sitting in Vedanta Society, the Ramakrishna order. The central philosophy is Advaita Vedanta. You say, why? Thakur spoke about Vishishta-Advaita and Dvaita and so many things. So why only Advaita Vedanta? Swami Vivekananda established the Advaita ashram in the Himalayas, in a place called Mayavati. Mayavati has another meaning today in India. I remember once we went to the Mayavati ashram. It's in that area, the Champavat area, which is famous because we all have read Jim Corbett stories of tiger hunting. So that was the area where Jim Corbett hunted tigers. So it's a beautiful ashram. The area is called Mayavati. I and another monk, we had visited that ashram and we were on our way back. We were standing in a train station and some gentleman asked, "So where are you sadhus from? Where are you coming from?" He said, "We are just coming down from the Mayavati ashram." And remember, it was UP. So this gentleman said, "Acha, unka ashram bhi hai?" Mayavati also has ashram. I said, no, we are not disciples of Mayavati, we are disciples of Vivekananda. So in that Advaita ashram, Swami Vivekananda said, here it's only for Advaita, no rituals, no images, no pictures, nothing. When he went to visit it, he saw a picture of Sri Ramakrishna has been installed and it is being worshipped. And he said, what? The old man has entered this place also. Remove the picture. Then one of the monks felt hurt and he wrote to Ma Sharda, the Holy Mother, that Vivekananda has asked for removing the picture of Ramakrishna. Is this right? It's not good. What's harm if we worship Ramakrishna? And he thought, after all, Ma Sharda will support him. But Ma Sharda wrote back to him, saying that what Naren has done is completely right. Your Guru, Ramakrishna, your Guru was Advaita. Very interesting use of words. Not an Advaita, not Advaitavadi, not a follower of Advaita. She writes, your Guru was Advaita. And I can say with complete certainty that you are all Advaitavadis. That means you are non-dualists. So what Naren has done is right. Central philosophy of our order is Advaita Vedanta. Ramanujacharya came and wrote his commentary, the Sri Bhashya, on the same Brahma Sutras. And that is the central philosophical text of the entire Vishishta Advaita system. You will find large numbers of the followers of that system in Tamil Nadu, Sri Vaishnavas. You go to temples and you see their rituals and worship, but behind it is Ramanujacharya, and behind Ramanujacharya is Upanishads, Brahma Sutra and Upanishads. Madhvacharya, go to Udupi, the great system of Dvaita Vedanta. And Dvaita Vedanta is based on, philosophically speaking, based on Madhvacharya's Purna Pragya Bhashya, the commentary on the Brahma Sutras. Even in America, all around the world, if you see the Hare Krishna monks dancing and singing, somebody asked me in London, in the Ontario University of West Ontario, somebody asked me a question. What's the difference between Ramakrishna and Hare Krishna? Oh, sorry, it was in Montreal, in a college, in Mariana College. 19-year-old girl. She asked me, what is the difference between Ramakrishna and Hare Krishna? So I have to explain. But the ISKCON monks, the Hare Krishna monks, when they sing and dance, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, you might think, so what is the connection with Upanishads there? But there is. The ISKCON monks belong to the order of Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's order. And that is a system of Vedanta called Achintya Bheda Bheda. Again based on a commentary in the Brahma Sutras, which is based on Upanishads. In the same way, the great systems of Hinduism, you see these magnificent temples of Swami Narayan temples, coming up in different places. They are philosophically based on Ramanujacharya's Vishishtadvaita. So behind all the great systems of Hinduism, great traditions of Hinduism, behind all those temples and rituals and images and festivals, the Upanishads are there. They are the foundation of Hinduism, and they have been for millennia, for centuries and millennia. So what are the Upanishads? What's there in the Upanishads? The first thing one notices when one goes to the Upanishads, they are mostly questions and answers. They are not dogma. There is a student who asks questions, and there are teachers who give replies to these questions. And what questions they are! The deepest questions, the greatest questions, the fundamental questions of humanity. Questions which we all ask. Maybe as children or as teenagers, all of us ask at some point these questions. What is the meaning of life? What happens after death? Does God exist? Can one experience God? Narendranath went on asking this question and became Vivekananda. These questions. What is the secret of this universe? Who am I? These are the questions which are asked, the fundamental questions of humanity. All of us, we ask these questions, but unfortunately what happens is then life catches up with you and you forget these questions and then go on with life until the time comes for you to think again seriously about that. And then you come back to Vedanta Society to ask these questions again. So these questions are asked in the Upanishads. In the Kena Upanishad, it starts with a question, Kena, by what? That's why the name of the Upanishad is Kena Upanishad. By what? What is the question? Kene shitam padati preshitam mana, Kena prana pratama preti yukta, Kene shitam vachamimam vadanti, chakshu shrotram kaudeva yunakti. It's so thrilling that this language which was of the Vedas, in the Upanishads, which you heard on the Gangetic plains or on the banks of the river Saraswati 5,000 years ago, to echo this in Toronto in the 21st century. Question, look at the question. By what is my mind illumined? By what do I think these thoughts? Nothing esoteric, just these thoughts which I am thinking right now. What is the light by which I think these thoughts? But what is the light by which I have the experience of seeing? That light by which I have the experience of hearing. Right now you are hearing, we are all hearing. We ask this question. By what am I capable of hearing and seeing and thinking and speaking? How do my words come up? He's not asking a question of physiology or biology. He's asking, Kau Deva, what shining light inside? Deva means a bright being. You know what he's asking? The question is a question about consciousness. It's a question that was not asked anymore for almost no philosopher really asked this for thousands of years until last 25 years ago. Now we are beginning to ask, and we call it consciousness studies. Cutting edge research, late 20th, early 21st century. This is the question that David Chalmers posed, the hard problem of consciousness. Exactly same question. That is, he says, the irreducibility of consciousness, that there is some fundamental reality about consciousness which you cannot reduce to brain states, which you cannot reduce to flesh and blood. Something remarkable about this phenomenon of consciousness. Now we are asking it. Evan Thompson in his book, when he begins this book, he says, consciousness studies did not start 20 years ago. They started 5,000 years ago with the Upanishads. So this is the question. And this question is what is the fundamental reality about ourselves? When we are asking, how do I see, how do I hear, how do I think, how do I speak? Basically, what am I asking? What am I? What am I? Often I say, who am I? Some of the talks I gave titled, Who Am I? But a Vedanta teacher said, Vedanta is not really about who am I. Who am I? You can answer. I am a doctor, I am an engineer, I am a Swami, I am a man, I am a woman, I am an Indian, I am Canadian. Who am I? But Vedanta is not about that. Vedanta goes deeper. What am I? Beyond Canadian or Indian, beyond Hindu or Muslim, beyond man or woman, beyond living, non-living, beyond that. What am I? What is the reality within me? That's the question which is being asked here. And that question is a question about consciousness. Another kind of question. In the Mundaka Upanishad we find The student Shaunaka goes and asks this question to the teacher Angiras. Shaunako havai mahashalo Angirasam vidivalupasannapapracha. Shaunaka, a successful man of the world, who has achieved everything in the world, now has a question. And he goes and asks this question to the master Angiras. How? What is the question? Kasminnu bhagavo vidyate sarvaminam vidyatam bhavatiti. Sir, oh holy sir, what is that one thing by knowing which everything here becomes known? By knowing one thing, I want to know everything. We call it grand unified theory or theory of everything. But that is still, even the physicist's theory of everything is a theory of everything in the physical world. But here Shaunaka is asking not only physical world, our internal mental world, our subjective world, this whole experience of life, whatever is out there. Tell me one thing by which everything is known. What an incredible question. Two kinds of question. One question is, what am I? And second question is, what is this? How much more fundamental can you get? Most basic questions of our life and experience. And sometimes it's put in different ways. That very beautiful and very touching story of the little boy Nachiketa in the Upanishad, who went to the house of death and asked death himself, Yama, I have a question for you. What is the question? Secret of death. What happens after death? Some people say there is nothing. A lot of scientists and atheists and all today will say that there's nothing, death is the end. And some people who believe in religion, they say there is something, that some kind of existence is there. Post-mortem existence, something happens after death. Tell me, because who knows better than you? Yama. So questions like this, fundamental questions of life. And if these questions are impressive, imagine the answers. The answers that you get in the Upanishads are incredible. Just by listening to that, you're purified. The core of religion, the core of spirituality. Aldous Huxley calls it the perennial philosophy. So what are the answers that you get in the Upanishads? The answer to the question of what is all this? The answer to the question of what am I? The Isha Upanishad begins with an answer. Isha vastyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena munjitha ma vidhakkasya sviddhanam. Mahatma Gandhi said, if all of Hinduism were to disappear today, but just the first sentence of the first verse of the Isha Upanishad remains, the whole of Hinduism will remain. What is the first sentence? All that you experience in this universe, cover it with God. Cover it with Isha, the highest reality, Brahman. What do you mean cover it with Brahman? Swami Vivekananda says, not by some kind of false optimism, trying to say everything is God, everything is God. No, by actually seeing God. How do you see God in everything? Shankaracharya explains there. What does it mean by seeing God? By seeing God means seeing Paramatma, the essence of everything. The essence of everything is your own essence also. Paramatma of everything is your own Atma. So seeing everything, the reality of everything means seeing the essence of everything. Seeing the essence of everything means seeing the essence of yourself. So knowing everything, and the way is to know oneself. And how do you know oneself? The Shankaracharya says, covering everything means uncovering the reality which is already there. Not superimposing, not imagining that everything is God. But there is a reality which is hidden by our ignorance, by our restlessness, by the impurities of mind. So uncovering that reality which already exists. How do you uncover the reality? By discovering it. You see, cover everything by God is equal to uncover the God which already exists. Uncovering God which already exists means discovering the God which already exists. How do you discover the God that already exists? And the Upanishads give many techniques, which are the techniques of Advaita Vedanta. There are many techniques. In the Taittiriya Upanishad says, you do not understand the reality within is God. How do you know that? How do you know the God within? Yo veda nihitam guhayam parame dhyoman. In Taittiriya Upanishad. One, how do you realize Brahman? How do you become enlightened? There is a technique. What is the technique? The technique is to realize Brahman within the sacred space of the heart, within yourself. What does that mean? To put it very simply, you must realize Brahman as not that this is Brahman or that is Brahman, but you must first realize I am Brahman. The sacred space of the heart within means that consciousness which you feel within. The sacred space of the heart, Shankaracharya comments saying, Buddhi Goha. Hridaya Goha means Buddhi Goha. The consciousness that you feel in your mind right now, that has to be understood as Brahman. How do you do that? Many techniques are given in the Upanishads. For example, in the Taittiriya Upanishad it says, let's start from where you are, like any great teacher. The Upanishads adopt the method of from the near to the far, from the known to the unknown, from what is to what shall be. The golden rule of teaching. Don't start with Brahman, start with what people know. What do people know? When you say you are Brahman, people will say, no, I'm not Brahman. Alright, the Upanishads are very considerate. Alright, what do you think you are? Take a look at yourself. What do you think you are? We say, I am this. Oh, this body? We say, yes, I think I am the body. Let's start there. The Upanishad says, this body, look at it. Isn't it a modification of food, what you eat and drink? That is constructed into this body, that is assimilated into this flesh and blood and bones. A biologist in Cambridge University, I was hearing his talk on the internet. He says, what are we? He means we are the body. What are we? We are food rearranged. Food is arranged, your lunch plate. The food is arranged on your lunch plate. And that is rearranged when you eat it. And that is what you are. He means the body, of course. It is called Annamaya. This body is Annamaya, Annamaya Kosha. Annamaya means modification of Annam. Annam means food. The body is a modification of food. And then the Upanishad shows you, because that how you are not the body. It does not deny that there is a body. It does not deny that you experience a body. The Upanishad never is dogmatic. Never asks you to believe something that's incredible. In fact, the more I study the Upanishads, the more I see it simply stating a fact. It's not obvious to us, but it's being pointed out to us. And if you think about it, you are forced to say, yes, that's true. You are not the body. Why not? Because the body is an object and you are the experience of the object. This microphone is an object and I am the experience of the object. Am I the microphone? Thank God. And just if you see a tree, do you become a tree? No, the tree is an object of your experience. In the same way, the body is an object of your experience. Think about it. These are all profound insights, not so fast. Body is an object of your experience, you are the experiencer. You cannot be the body. You are awareness. And the body is something that you see in awareness, Chaitanya and Jada. The two cannot be the same. And so on. You are unchanging. The body is continuously changing. The two cannot be the same, the changing and the unchanging. Look at your own experience, the Upanishad says, and guides you in your own experience, points out certain things in your own experience to show you are not the body. Then what is next? Upanishad says, look inside. You will find prana, breathing, digesting food, circulation of blood. All the physiological processes which hold the body together as a living body. So am I life? Prana. And the Upanishad again shows you, isn't it an object also? And when you breathe in and out, are you not aware of that? In a whole industry, I might say, of mindfulness meditation. Be aware of your breath. When aware of your breath means the breath is an object and you are the one who is aware, isn't it? Then how can you be the breath? How can you be the prana? So the prana is again a pranamaya kosha, sheath, which covers the real you, not you. In the same way the Upanishad takes you. The mind, are you the mind? Same arguments apply. Drashta and Drishya, Chit and Jara, Nirvikara and Savikara. These arguments, same arguments apply. You are not the mind. The intellect which you are using to understand the Upanishads, are you the intellect? Same arguments apply. The intellect changes. You are the unchanging observer of the intellect. The intellect is something experienced. You are the experiencer. You are the subject. Intellect is an object, no matter how subtle. It's still an object. You are not the intellect. And beyond that, the Anandamaya Kosha and so on. And the Upanishad goes on to show that you are the consciousness which shines upon the 5 sheets which you call your personality. This is one method. Then there is the method of the Avasthatraya. Waking, dreaming, etc. That's where Evan Thompson got the name of his book. Waking, dreaming and being. So, waking, dreaming and deep sleep. That which is aware of this hall and Vedanta society and the Swami speaking, in the waking world, that consciousness is the same consciousness which is aware of the dreams that you have when you are sleeping. Is the same consciousness that is aware of the blankness, the absolute quiet and the rest of deep sleep, sushupti. Same consciousness. Waking, dreaming and deep sleep rotate every day. The consciousness, the one and unchanging consciousness is aware of them. Is not trapped, is not limited into the waking existence, is not limited in the dream or deep sleep. They come and go in the light of the consciousness which you are. That consciousness is not this limited individual of the waking state. So by avasthatraya vichara, by looking at our experience, daily experience of waking, dreaming and deep sleep, you come to the idea of the witness consciousness. Different methods are given in different Upanishads. In the Mundaka Upanishad, you find the beautiful poetry, the analogy of the 2 birds. Dva suparna sayuja sakhaya samanam vriksham parishasva jate tayoranya pippalam swadvatti anashnannanyo avichakashiti. 2 birds of glorious golden plumage. They are sitting on a tree. 2 birds. One sitting up, one a little down. And one of them is hopping from branch to branch and tasting the fruits. And the other one does not taste the fruits, just sits and watches. What is that? That's our life. That tree is this body-mind complex. And the fruits that the bird is tasting, they are the results of our karma, good and bad, pleasant and unpleasant. And the little bird is the consciousness that you or I, we feel right now. This sentient being, this being of awareness who we are right now, that's the little bird, the lower bird. And the other shining bird sitting high up on the tree, which just watches, that is the real Atman or pure consciousness. Now what happens is, we hop from branch to branch. Little bird hops from branch to branch and tastes the sweet fruit and is encouraged to go and taste more fruit until it tastes a particularly bitter fruit and gets a shock. And then looks up at the bird sitting on the top and says, how calm and peaceful. That's so nice. Can't I be like that? Why do you have to struggle all my life? So it hops towards that higher bird. We are like that. We are so engaged in the world. This seems to be the reality. Study and get a job and then come to Canada and make a life for yourself here. And you're busy in your life, making your life a success. And then reflection comes. Sometimes through maturity, sometimes through a shock in life, somebody beloved dies or something horrible happens. You think, is this all that there is to life? I will very soon get old and die and that's it. There's nothing more beyond. And then you hear that you are not this body, not this mind. You are the immortal witness consciousness, the higher bird. Then you look at somebody like Ramakrishna or Vivekananda or Mahashala and you think, that's nice. And hop towards that. But what happens? The little bird is hopping towards the higher bird. But then suddenly it sees a very nice fruit. Let me taste that. I'm hopping towards there. And suddenly I see iPhone 8 is coming out. Vedanta is there. Thousands of years it has been there. iPhone 8 is not. I have to get it before it is sold out. So let me go there. It hops towards that. And gets engaged in. It's very nice, very sweet. And then the bird forgets the higher bird and keeps on eating more and more fruits until it gets another big blow or shock. And in this way, as it moves up towards the higher bird, then it begins to see that the glory, the effulgence of the higher bird is shining all around itself. And finally, it realizes only the higher bird exists. Its own existence is merged in the higher bird. The little bird has no independent existence. You realize yourself as Brahman. The little sun reflected in a bucket of water realizes that I am not this little sun in a bucket of water. A little reflection of the sun, I am the real sun up there. I, the real sun, was being reflected there as a little sun in the bucket of water. I am the real sun shining upon the world, upon the universe. In fact, I am the real sun reflected in all buckets of water as many little suns everywhere. When you say Vedanta, that they are all one consciousness, it seems difficult because we limit ourselves to one body. So it seems that the consciousness in that body and that body are different from me. If you have a bucket of water and the sunlight is reflected, there is a tiny sun in that bucket. That little sun will find it very difficult to understand that I am in all the buckets of water. Very difficult. It's only when it realizes that I am the sun. I am the sun shining upon that bucket and the little reflected sun there, and it sees that I shine upon all the buckets in the water there, and the reflected suns everywhere are my reflections. So realizing that I am that reality. The two questions, what is all this and what am I? The Upanishads give one answer. One answer to both the questions. What you are and what is all this is in reality one reality called Brahman. This is the grand conclusion of all the Upanishads. By the way, a caveat. I am talking about all of this from a non-dualistic point of view. If you speak about it from Vishishtadvaita point of view or Dvaita point of view, you will get different answers. But from an Advaitic point of view, the reality that you are and the reality of this entire universe is one reality. The grand conclusion of the Upanishads is the Mahavakya, the great, profound sentence, Tat Tvam Asi, that thou art. What is that? The reality of this entire universe. When Shaunak asked his master, what is that by knowing which I can know everything? And his master tells him that there is something called Akshara, the imperishable, which is the reality behind this entire universe. In the Kena Upanishad, when the student asks, what is the light within by which I hear, I smell, I touch, I speak, I think, I talk? That light is pure consciousness within. And what Tat Tvam Asi, that thou art, says is that pure consciousness within and the reality of this universe, Brahman, Atman and Brahman are one and the same reality. That is the grand conclusion of the Upanishads. That thou art, Tat Tvam Asi. You find in Chandogya Upanishad, the student Shvetaketu is actually the son. He comes back to his father after graduating from college. He's gone to an Ivy League college or something, comes back, and his father sees the boy is proud. The boy is thinking, I know the latest stuff, my dad is outdated. What does the old man know? So, to bring him down a notch, his father asks him, in your school, my son, did they teach you that by that science, that knowledge, by knowing which everything is known? Same question, you see. Eka vijnanena sarvavidam vijnanam bhavati. By that one knowledge, everything in the universe is known. Now there arises a question in the mind of Shvetaketu. How can you know everything by knowing one branch of knowledge? If you know chemistry, you know only chemistry. If you know Sanskrit, you know only Sanskrit. If you know French, you know only French. How can you know everything by knowing one thing? And then his father explains, you can. Just as by knowing clay, that this is clay, you know that everything made out of that clay will be what? Clay. By knowing wood, you know that everything made out of wood will be wood. This lectern is wood, the stage is wood, the doors are wood, the windows are wood. Whether it's a window or a door or a lectern or the stage, you know it is wood. He says that just as by knowing clay, everything, all the pots made of clay are known. Known in what sense? Known as that they are clay. Just as by knowing gold, any ornament made by the goldsmith out of gold, you know that it is gold. These are the examples given in the Upanishad. Just as by knowing iron, in all the implements, he talks about nail cutter. So they had nail cutters in those 5,000 years ago. Then all the implements made of iron, we know that they are iron. In the same way, there is one reality by knowing which everything can be known. You see, if you know the cause, the material, you know the effect. The material you know as wood, all the effects, table and stage and door and window are known. If you know the gold, the material, then you know whether it's a necklace or a ring or a crown or a bangle. All of them are, if they are made of gold, they are gold. Their reality is gold. In the same way, there is one reality which appears as this entire universe. One of the most profound sentences in the Upanishads, in Chandogya Upanishad, his father tells him, Sadeva Saumya idamagra asi ekameva dvitiyam. Pure existence alone, all this was before the universe was projected. My dear boy, before this entire universe was projected, it was all pure being, Sat. And what was it like? Ekam eva dvitiyam, one alone without a second. Ekam eva dvitiyam. Now that boy, of course, was very smart and he couldn't care less, so you can sort of mentally picture him shrugging, so what? I don't care. All this was one existence without a second, so what? So what? Then the conclusion which his father gives him, Tat tvamasi shvetaketu. That pure existence, one without a second, you are that. When now it's about you, then you cannot say so what. It's about you. What are you? What is this universe? This universe is nothing but one existence without a second, with various names and forms. What are you? You are that reality. The essential teaching of Advaita Vedanta, Tat Tvamasi, Brahma Satyam, that reality alone is real. Jagat Mithya, this entire universe which we see, is an appearance of that reality. What about me? Jiva Brahmeva Napara. You are none other than that reality. Brahman is real, the world is an appearance, and you are that reality. Some smart, modern philosopher put it this way. Change it slightly, put it this way. Brahman alone is real. The world is an appearance. The world is false. And the world is Brahman. Brahman is real. The world is false. And the world is Brahman. What does that mean? That means not that Brahman is false. It means that what you consider to be the world is nothing other than Brahman. You see, when you see the snake and somebody tells you it's not a snake, it's a rope, where is the rope? There itself, where you are seeing the snake. The world is an appearance, Brahman is real. Where is Brahman? Where is Brahman? Assignment I am giving to you. In heaven, if I say the snake which you are seeing, you think it's a snake. The classic example in Advaita Vedanta, one boy ran off to become a monk and his relatives went in search of him. So they finally found him in a monastery, and when they came back to the village, people asked, did you find that boy? What is he doing? What's going on in that monastery? Oh, he has gone to a monastery, he's alright. But they have a big problem in that monastery. What's the problem? That there is a problem with snakes. Every day in the morning they get together and have a meeting that there is a snake. And they discuss it throughout the day. And they reach some kind of solution. And the next day again the snake is back. They'll again talk about the snake. Snake and rope, for example. So you see, if somebody says that the snake which you are experiencing is false, it's not really a snake, it's a rope. Now if I ask you, where is the rope? Where is the snake? You are seeing it. Now where is the rope? Where is the rope? It's in the locker, in the maintenance department. No, it's right there. What you are mistaking for the snake is actually the rope. exactly like that. What a tremendous statement. The God that you are searching for, the ultimate reality of the universe, what you consider to be the world, the reality of that is Brahman. Where is Brahman? Right here. Here. When is Brahman? When? After death? Now. Oh, it's all true, but after realizing, right? We say that it's a to trick the mind place. After realizing that, I will be Brahman. No. Now. He never said that after realizing you will be Brahman. After realizing you will know that you are Brahman. But now itself you are Brahman, whether you know it or not. One monk from whom we learned Vedanta in the Himalayas, he would say in Hindi, he was Punjabi, he would say in Hindi to us, ये बड़ी उल्टी दर्शन है महात्मा जी, this is a very strange philosophy. तुम जानो या ना जानो, whether you know it or not, तुम मानो या ना मानो, whether you accept it or not, तुम ही राम, you are Rama, you are God. So that is the great conclusion of the Upanishads. And if you look carefully, Tat Tvamasi, that thou art, what it means is, you are nothing but Brahman. You are nothing but God. That means you are not a body, not a mind, not a limited individual. You are nothing but God. And even more stunning, the opposite. God is nothing but you. One Vedanta teacher said, there is no Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara except the real you. No God, but the real you. I don't mean the individual person you think yourself to be. The real you, there is no God but that. That the only God that exists is the real you. And the real you is nothing but God. That is the meaning of that thou art. The great sayings, the Mahavakyas in the different Upanishads. Chandogya Upanishad, that thou art, Tat Tvamasi. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, you find Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. In the Aitreya Upanishad, you find Prajnanam Brahma. This very consciousness within is Brahman. In the Mandukya Upanishad, I am Atma Brahma. This very self is Brahman. Sometimes mind desperately tries to escape. Why? Because right now, who do we think we are? We are the mind. So the mind is very happy. Mind has got you. When you say, I am the witness consciousness, I am apart from the mind, the witness of the mind, then the mind gets very upset because the mind, you are escaping from the mind. The mind will always try to grasp you, keep you as its prisoner. We sometimes say, yes, my Atma is Brahman. But my problem is that I have got so many problems. Atma is alright. Atma means you. What do you think Atma is? Like my kidney or my liver or my lungs? My kidneys are alright, but my heart is a problem. Not like that. My Atma is alright, but I have many financial problems. You are the Atma. Once you realize this, okay, let me end with a nice story which I have not told for a long time, so I think many people here may not have heard it. All desires for experiencing limited things in the world will disappear. After enlightenment, why is it that chasing this and that, if I get the iPhone 8, I will be completed. Purna. That desire will disappear. How? Why and how? Here's the story. I'll tell the story and complete it. The story is called The Princess of Kashi. Kashi Desh Ki Rajkumari. It's a story in the Himalayas. We hear it from monks. There was a kingdom, not Kashi, another kingdom in ancient times, and a dramatic performance was going to be done in the court of the king. And one of the roles in that, one of the characters in that drama was the Princess of Kashi. And they wanted somebody to dress up as the Princess of Kashi, who would be a little girl, the Princess of Kashi in the drama. And they could not find anybody. In the prince of that kingdom was a 5-year-old boy, and he was so cute. His mother, the queen, said, why don't you dress him as the Princess of Kashi? So he was dressed like a little girl, and very cute he was dressed as the Princess of Kashi, and the drama was a big success. And the prince looked so cute as the Princess of Kashi. His mother said, paint a portrait. Nowadays she would have taken a selfie with him or something. But paint a portrait in those days. Paint a portrait of him. I want this picture. So a picture was painted. It was written Princess of Kashi. Anyway, so it was over. Many years passed. 15 years passed. And the prince was now grown up. Young prince. And studying and hunting and learning how to be a king and all that. Very happy. One day he was exploring the palace and he went to an old storeroom. And when he went inside, he was rummaging around, seeing the old things there. And he found an old picture. And he removed the dust from the picture and he saw the picture of this little girl. It was written Princess of Kashi. And the date is given. Oh, this girl, now she must be my age. And he fell in love with her. And but he could not tell, he was feeling shy, so he could not tell his father or mother, the king or the queen, but he felt, sad and morose and dejected, and his mother noticed, why aren't you going to class, why aren't you going out riding horses and things like that? He didn't say anything. His father was worried, mother was worried, but he couldn't get anything out of him. So the wise old minister took the prince aside and said, Prince, what ails you? Tell me, what troubles you? I won't tell anybody, tell me. So the prince said, I have fallen in love. And the minister said, that's very good. Who is the girl? It's the Princess of Kashi. Oh, wonderful. Well, where did you meet her? I haven't actually met her. Oh, really? Then how do you know about her? I've seen that picture. Oh, very good. Where did you see her picture? Well, it's a picture from long ago, but the date shows that she must be my age now. And I found it in our storeroom. And she was a little girl at that time, 15 years ago, but now according to the date, she must be my age. Then the minister, something he remembered. He said, wait, take me to that storeroom. So the prince took him to the storeroom and showed him the portrait, Princess of Kashi, little girl. And the date is given. The minister looked at that picture and then he said to the prince, you need to sit down. Many years ago, there was a dramatic performance in our court. And the role was Princess of Kashi, and this is the one who played the role. This is not really Princess of Kashi. Then the prince said, okay, that's also alright. Whoever she is, I will marry her. He said, it is not whoever she is, oh prince. You were, dressed up as the Princess of Kashi because the queen said you will make a very good Princess of Kashi. So you were dressed up the Princess of Kashi, and this is your portrait. That thou art Tattvamasi. Now the question is, what happened to the prince's desire to marry the Princess of Kashi? The desire went away. Now why did that desire go away? This is a very crucial question in Advaita. Here is the thing. Why did the desire go away? Because he could never marry the Princess of Kashi. That's why the desire went away, out of frustration. No. Because the Princess of Kashi did not exist. That's why the desire went away. No. Because he is himself the Princess of Kashi. The Princess of Kashi is ever attained. There is no other Princess of Kashi other than him. That's why you don't have a desire to attain yourself because you are ever attained. You realize that when you realize yourself as Brahman, everything in the universe is nothing but you. When Shankaracharya said, Ishavasyam idam sarvam, all this is to be covered by Brahman. Brahman is nothing other than Paramatma, Paramatma is nothing other than your Atma. I am translating from the Sanskrit. Paramatma is none other than your Atma, and therefore all this is Brahman is equal to all this I am. The universe that you experience is nothing but you. Yes, even the most annoying person is nothing but you. This universe is our Princess of Kashi. We have forgotten it. We have differentiated ourselves from it. Swami Vivekananda said, things are dead in themselves. We breathe life into them, then we either run after them or run away from them. Breathing life into them means giving them existence. That existence of the universe is your existence. It's borrowed from you. That Ananda which you think is in the universe is your Ananda, borrowed from you, reflected back to you. Therefore, when you realize yourself as Brahman, you feel one with everything and everybody. And the universe is not different from you. You are one with the universe, or rather the universe is one with you. This grand consummation is the message of the Upanishads. That is something that is available to all of us, young and old, man or woman, Indian or Canadian, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jewish or Buddhist or atheist. Everybody has this reality within themselves. Attaining this reality, one attains the consummation of human life. Somebody said, oh, after that, life will be boring. No, then only you begin to live life. You begin to live without fear. You begin to live without hankering. You begin to live without suffering. You begin to live without despair and frustration. You will be relaxed first of all. The greatest of all relaxations. Permanently relaxed. You will be happy, undisturbed by anything in the world outside. You will never be jealous of anybody. You will never be afraid of anything. Dvitiyadvai bhayam bhavati is from the second that fear comes. When Janaka attained enlightenment, his master told him, Yagyavalkya told him, Abhayam vai praptovasi, you have reached fearlessness. True fearlessness lies in this ultimate consummation that I am Brahman. I pray to Sri Ramakrishna, to the Holy Mother, Swami Vivekananda, all the great spiritual masters of humanity, to bless us that may we attain this grand vision, this grand unity in this very life. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Namastu. Thank you.